Good morning. My name is Adetutu Songonuga. I work with Human Capital Partners. I'm the partner in charge of learning and development. And I partner with organizations to design and deliver customized, incredibly impactful learning experiences for their teams. And so come along with me on this journey. Let's have some fun. Effective communication is understanding the assignment, knowing what is required and getting the right result. So what is effective communication? It's the speaker being able to clearly pass on the message that he wants the receiver to get, and the receiver gets it exactly the same message. So the analogy I like to use is you have a picture in your mind, and somehow you have to make sure that when you're done speaking, your listener has exactly the same picture. Whether it's a bungalow, a story building, whatever it is, they have exactly the same picture. So that is how I like to think of effective communication. Why is it important? Communication really is the lifeblood of any organization. If you think about chaos, and if you think about a lack of order in any organization, and apply that to communication, then you see what the problem could be. So for organizations, it's absolutely critical to get your communication clear, intentional, and deliberate. The first challenge I always like to say is thinking communication is a one and done process. Thinking I've said it once and everybody has gotten it. That nothing could be further from the truth. When it comes to communication, you always have to say it differently, say it more than once. If you think once is enough, you actually have to say it a whole lot more times than you think is necessary. So one of the things when we get into training, when we get into coaching, one of the things is people process information differently. And so you have a leader who likes to take in information in one way, and he thinks that's how everyone is. And that's not true. So one of the things you need to do is begin to understand, how do your people like to get their information? And you just want to be able to communicate across different channels, across different mediums. So you will have your verbal, and then you're going to have your email, and then maybe you're going to do your one-on-one or group calls or whatever it is. But you can't have a one-size-fits-all for everyone. You really want to get the best out of your team, begin to understand how people on your team process information differently, and just, plan to always have those different channels when you're communicating with the team. So that way, if somebody drops off in one particular channel, you catch them on another one and you have all the bases covered. Number one for me is trust. That is number one, trust. Because when there's trust, a lot of the work is already done. Or you have minimal filters, getting into the communication process. Once there's trust, then communication can flow clearly. And then you want to talk about clarity. Being clear in how you speak to your team. Making sure that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Making sure that people get exactly the message. And one of the ways of doing that is asking for feedback. Making sure that what you've communicated is exactly what people have understood. So one thing leaders don't understand is their words are so weighty. Their words are so heavy. You may say something in jest and the team picks it up and they begin to run with it. And then you begin to see some things happening and you're wondering what happened, and get to enough that you do ask a question that, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? They'll tell you, you said, and then you realize, oh my goodness, this was something you just said in passing, but the team took it and ran with it. So for me, trust is number one. Being clear is number two. And then, encouraging feedback from your team, making sure that everybody is being carried along. If you think of communication as the lifeblood of an organization, And let's just play with that analogy for a minute. If you think of blood, and blood is really literally the lifeblood of the organism. If it's infected, if it's diseased, ultimately that person is going to die if it's not treated. And so if we say communication is the lifeblood of any organization, if it's not done properly, if it's not harnessed, if it's not channeled appropriately, then what you find is people are going to be working in silos. People are going to be having their own ideas of what they think is going on. Rumors will abound. And people are just not being appropriately led and directed. So at the end of the day, that organization is going to be working at way less capacity than it could have. And that's why on our communication programs, we always emphasize the importance of clear communication, the importance of understanding styles of communication, the importance of understanding that communication is on so many multiple levels. It would shock you to hear that there was a study that was done, and when people are talking, people drop out of communication. I think it was about every 8 to 12 seconds. They literally zone out. They're not listening to you. They're processing what is being said. And if you say something really important during that time, it's gone. It wasn't caught. And that's why you always have to reiterate and reinforce the points that you want your people to get. Let me start with engagement. When communication is clear, people know what is expected of them. Remember, we talked about trust. So people trust that the communication that is coming is, nobody's trying to set them up. People understand what their roles and responsibilities are. They understand what the roles and responsibilities of their leaders are. And they know that communication is always a two-way street. So they know that even if I don't understand, I can ask questions. I'm not going to be penalized for asking questions because we are not running a blame culture here. And so when you have all that in place, people feel a whole lot more engaged. They know that they can ask questions without being shamed. They know that they can be coached and mentored when required. And so there's a whole lot that goes into that. So with productivity, everybody knows what's expected of them. Instructions are clear, roles and responsibilities are assigned, people know the results that are expected, and people can run on that track and they can get things done. That only happens when the communication is really, really clear, really lucid, and everybody understands the assignment, like we say. When it comes to engagement, employee engagement, my favorite example is the story about the janitor in NASA who was asked, "What do you do?" And his response was, "I'm part of the crew that is enabling one of these astronauts to get on the moon at the assigned time." And this means that somebody had sat him down and explained to him why the corridor must always be dry, why there cannot be any clutter or drop of water. I like that rhyme, clutter or water, in the corridor, because a simple accident could set the whole project back by weeks, months, or even years, because it took a lot to really train people to go to space. And that was the janitor. He was thoroughly engaged and he bought into the vision. And so when you clearly communicate the vision, the mission, or the roles and responsibilities to the team and they understand it, then engagement takes off to a whole different level. So that is what I like to say is really important when it comes to communication. It has the ability to galvanize your entire team. And who doesn't want that?